Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. I'm your headmaster, Jim Schubert. I hope you're ready to grow big or go home. If you're watching this, you're probably noticing that things look a little bit different. I'm in the process of building out a proper studio for the podcast. So I'm in a different spot in my house right now. And no, that's not a spaceship behind me. That is a really cool light that my wife wanted to put down here in the basement. So I'm excited to get back into a solo cast with you today. We're going to talk about 5 ways to find quality candidates without a recruiter. Now, I know this is a hot topic right now. The job market is very, very tough for people trying to find good, talented people. Before we dig into it, I do want to talk about Marblebox real quick. This is another way, on the show, we talk about branding, marketing, and agency operations. And one of the ways that we've been able to get back some time to free up time for the people who have licenses in our agency, have good qualifications, the people I'm going to talk about in a second that you're going to try to find, the way to free up time for them is to use Marblebox. Marblebox is your virtual insurance processing team that lets you do the people stuff while they do the rest. So we basically outsource some of the lower quality tasks, the tasks that don't really affect the quality of the relationship with your clients. If it doesn't add value, we send it to Marblebox. So I'll give you an example. We had a personal lines account manager position open up. So we were down a person a couple months ago, and thank goodness we had just brought on Marblebox because they were able to process 560 tasks in the first month alone, far exceeding what I think a personalized processor could have done to help out the account manager who left. So it really helped ease the burden on our staff while we were down a person. It's really cool because Marblebox actually has, for every Marblebox employee that they give you, they're not actually an employee, but somebody who's outsourced and they're doing those tasks, they have a supervisor who's checking everything they do. So this is kind of unique in the industry. Yeah, there are other outsourcing companies, but Marblebox is the only one I know that has this. So it provides you an extra layer of protection and kind of, E&O protection, which is very, very unique. So check out Marblebox at marblebox.com. So 5 ways for you to find quality candidates without necessarily using a recruiter. Now, I love my recruiter friends, and we do use recruiters in our agency, but we've also tried to wean ourselves off of them during this job market because we are trying to hire a lot of people and grow, and we have been, and we are spending tens of thousands of dollars in recruiter fees. So if you're using recruiters, you know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the 5 ways that you can get away from using recruiters as much if you're doing that, because a lot of people are thinking there's no way that I can find as good quality people that a recruiter is going to find because they've got all the resources. They're digging under rocks. They can find people and ask the right questions and find. Folks, I'm here to tell you, you can do a lot of this on your own, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time and extra resource. So number 1 way to find quality candidates without using a recruiter is to include all position listings on your website. Now, I know this sounds very elementary, but there's a lot of you out there who are still not doing this. Now, we were in that position before. We didn't have all of our positions. We had a couple of them, but we only had the ones that we were really hiring for on any regular basis, like producers or account managers. But then we put all of our listings up there. And you know what the magic is? That you have people applying for some of these ancillary positions that actually could fit for the ones that you really want to hire. So you're sort of putting yourself out there more and allowing people to find you in more ways. If you're not doing that, the problem is that you're missing out on candidates who are perhaps researching you, right? Maybe they've even found you through an Indeed ad or from a recruiter, well, although I guess in this case, like with the recruiter contracts, you would definitely have to pay the recruiter. But if they didn't find you through a recruiter, any other method, and they're just researching, if you don't have your position listings on your website, you are in no danger of people actually finding your positions and what you have available. So put those positions out there. If you don't have your positions created, turn your roles and responsibilities into position listings. Hopefully you have those. I'm sure most of you have actual roles and responsibilities for each seat in your organization. If you don't, I highly encourage you to do that. But turn those into position listings that you can then put on your website. And you can, if you have a website developer, you can just send it to them. They can put it up there. If you do it yourself, it's really not that hard. We used to receive 0 resumes per day. And now we receive a couple a day or a handful a week, or sometimes even more than 10 a week without having to do anything. I know this may sound like low numbers, but all the other things I'm going to talk about, they're all going to add up. And this is one way, because you're missing out on people. And we have found good people who found us first because we had those positions listed there. So make sure that you list those on your website. Number 2 is to incentivize your staff. We used to not do this, and then we started to do it, but then we realized we really weren't giving the appropriate amount of incentive. So we kind of reevaluated things. The problem is, if you're not incentivizing your staff, you are not tapping into a low cost and connected resource. Think about it. Your staff is connected with other people in the industry. They know people outside of your insurance agency. Guess what? You're not the only game in town. They know people. They have friends. They came from other agencies oftentimes, so they still have these connections. Why not tap into them? The solution that I would give you is to calculate the average you spend on your recruiting efforts per hire. So if you're using a recruiter, look at the last fee you paid for that recruiter. If you're also using Indeed, look at, for that hire that you tried to make, how much did you spend on that? Get the average amount, okay? And then take that number and make it a little less. Now, here's why. A lot of you are saying, well, that's not fair. Why wouldn't you pay him the same amount? Well, think about it. If you are using a recruiter, in theory, they should be doing a lot of the extra heavy lifting for you, right? They're out there searching candidates. They're having phone screens with these people. They're gathering information. Your staff isn't going to do that for you. You don't need them to. You don't expect them to. And they certainly aren't going to do it even if you ask them to do it, right? So you don't have to pay them as much. And really, you shouldn't pay them as much, because at the end of the day, what they're doing for you is not as big of a value as you're getting from using a recruiter service, but you still want to reward them, right? Now, don't go too cheap, right? So that was the big lesson that I learned, is that we were going a little bit too cheap. So take that number, I don't know, cut it in half or maybe a third, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Don't go too low, but make it worth it so that the next time you have a position that you want to put out there and reach out to your staff and say, hey, gang, we're seeking a such and such, right? Then they can do some of the heavy lifting for you by sourcing the candidates for you. And then, of course, you want to put in there some stipulations, like they have to, the candidate has to come on board and stay there for, for us, it's 90 days. And then the employee that referred them gets paid that payout fee. So, do that. We used to be spending, a few $100s for this. We upped it recently, but we were also paying tens of thousands of dollars to recruiters. So just think about that. Incentivize your staff. Number 3, ask your partners to help. Okay. What I mean by your partners is, if you're not tapping into your carrier partners, you're like your carrier reps or carrier underwriters, Even your friendly competitors who you trust, right? Maybe they have things that they're not always seeking, or they may not be searching for the same types of people at the same time you are. And if they come across people, they may be willing to send them to you. Mortgage brokers, anybody that you partner with or you have a relationship with, reach out to them. Now, here's what I would suggest you do. Make a list of those people, put them in a spreadsheet, put all their email addresses, and the next time you have a need, send out a blast email and let them know that you're seeking this person. The bonus, like we talked about, number one, if you have it listed on your website, send them the link, right? Also, make it specific. You need to let them know what type of person that you're looking for, right? You don't want to, the more specific you are, the better quality candidates you're going to receive. So for instance, if you're reaching out to carrier reps, they may, of course, know other people who are on the carrier side, but if you're looking for somebody who's had independent agency experience, guess what? You need to let them know that. Like, hey, we are only seeking people who have had independent insurance agency experience. You may even get as specific as we do. We tend to not go after for particular positions. Some positions we do, but for others, we tend to not go after captive agents because they haven't had the experience necessarily writing with multiple carriers like we do and living in that environment. Okay. So be specific when you reach out to these partners for help. All right. Number 4, create a video advertisement on social media. Now, before you panic and get the sweats, it's not as hard or complicated as you might think. The problem is if you're not leveraging your social media, you are missing out. Okay, folks, you're posting on there every day. You're posting what you eat. You're posting what you did over the weekend. You're making business posts related if it's on LinkedIn. Why would you not also put these open positions out there for people to see? But here's the key. Do it in a unique way. Don't be bland and say, we have an open position. Make a video. Do something that stands out, right? Okay, here's what you do. Turn on your camera. You can do as many takes as you want. It doesn't have to be overly professional. Only make it about 1 minute. Why? Because you're going to lose people's attention after that. Make it short and sweet. Make some notes. If you're watching this, you can see me looking down at my computer. I've made notes about what I'm going to talk about today. It's okay to look at your notes, right? What does the position require? Make sure you put that in there. Who would make a good fit? You want to speak to the people who would otherwise be interested in this position. Hey, if you are jazzed about interacting with customers, but not necessarily jazzed about sales, this account manager position is for you. Also list the benefits, okay? So if you offer PTO, health insurance, 401k, we offer an incentive trip for our producers. That's a big one. That's kind of unique. That stands out. If you have something like that that stands out in your agency for a particular position or for your company as a whole, maybe it's something that you do together that's part of your company culture. Like for us, we raise money and walk to raise money for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation every year because we have a connection to one of our past podcast guests, Clay Snellings and his family, who his daughter Emily has cystic fibrosis. So our mission is to find a cure for CF. That's our cause, right? Part of the cause for our agency. So if you have something like that, highlight it. I can't tell you how many times I have gotten into a phone screen with somebody and they have said, by the way, I love that you guys give back to your community and that you have this connection with cystic fibrosis and that you're doing something about it, right? Make it unique to your agency. Make it stand out. All right. Number 5, the last one, embrace work from anywhere. I have talked to so many independent agents right now who are resisting this with all of their being, with every fiber. And I can't figure out why. Now, I know for some people, it's just hey, look, we're not set up for that. I get it. That's a whole separate video that I can certainly make, and then I will. But if you've got the tools in place to have survived the pandemic because you were working from home for a period of time and your staff was doing the same, guess what? It's not a secret. You are able to have people work from anywhere. Okay. So embrace it. If you're not, you're not having as many people looking today, and it's a lot harder. Okay. And your focus is just too narrow. Embrace it. Expand your horizons. The last 5 hires we have made in our company, these people have all been from out of state. We're based in Georgia. We now have employees just within the last 2 or 3 months. We have added employees from Texas, Ohio, Michigan, North Carolina. Like, I know there's one in there I'm missing, but Missouri, right? So we have embraced work from anywhere. And here's the secret, gang. If you do this, guess what you'll get out of it? You will find good, qualified people because you're expanding your horizons and you're not limiting yourself to the talent pool that's in your, very small area. We have had some of the most qualified people that we've added to the SSI insurance family in the last few months because we expanded those horizons. So embrace it, test it out. What I would tell you to do too is make a list of the states that you're comfortable with. Okay. You might not be comfortable with all states. We're not. And as a matter of fact, generally we're telling people, hey, if you're east of the Mississippi, which is kind of tongue in cheek because really we're saying if you're in the central or eastern time zone, that still works for us because we're based in the Eastern time zone in terms of being synced up with our hours of operation. Then jump on Indeed or wherever you're posting your jobs and post a remote position. So we use Indeed, post it on Indeed as a remote position. And then when you review those resumes, you may get ones because it's not going to allow you now to pick and choose states. They just changed that. Sneaky Indeed. So you're going to get stuff from everywhere. So for us, if I see California or Washington or whatever, it is what it is. I'm just, skipping over those ones. And you can also filter very quickly. So when you go into candidates, if you're not aware of this, you can literally search for a particular state among your candidates, and it'll bring up all candidates in those states. And then you can just hit reject if that's what your plan is there. So let's recap these real quick. Okay. 5 ways to find quality candidates without a recruiter. Number 1, include all positions on your website. All of them, not just account managers, not just producers, but all of them. Incentivize your staff. Make sure that you're calculating what that cost is to you, and then using whatever percentage you feel comfortable with, but make it enough that you're incentivizing your staff. Number 3, ask your partners to help, whether they're carriers, mortgage brokers, competitors you trust, whoever it is. Number 4, create a video advertisement to stand out and then post that on social media. And finally, number 5, embrace work from anywhere. Folks, if this was a helpful episode for you, I would love it, very much appreciate it if you, number 1, share it with people that you know, like, and trust. And if you would go on to Apple Podcasts and let me know, honestly, what you thought about this episode, and give me a rating. I would love to have that feedback. Folks, until next time, grow big or go home.